Here we go.
Pissy elevators, shitty hallways, only $1, split it 4 ways. Credit in the store, needles on the floor. If I had one wish, I wish for more. Nope.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of How to Beat the Streets podcast. Oh, man. Now today, man, I got a good brother over here, man. He got this purple and gold on, man, shining over there,
Rude
man.
dog, rude dog.
What's going on with you, man? How you feeling? How you, man?
I'm good, brother. Thank you for the invite, man.
You know how I go. So on this show, we always get started with a quote. You know what I mean? So the quote we got for you today is: "You are not free the day you walk out of prison. You are free the day you walk out of ignorance." What does that quote mean to you?
Well, I think even before you even go behind the concrete and steel bars, you're in prison as long as you're ignorant, right? You lose out on everything, and once you get out of jail, if you don't stop doing the things that you're doing and open up your mind to other things, it's like you never left. You know, your body left, but your mind is still. So what's going to happen is you're on the next countdown until you return back on the bus to go back up top.
Whew. Just that fast, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gems out the gate. And I wanted to start with that quote because I know you got like a unique background when it comes to one, how you was raised, some of the experiences you went through, but also, you know, what you currently do. So can you just share with us what you currently, you know, got going on right now?
Right now, I'm Executive Director of Operations for Juvenile Justice. I oversee a detention facility in Brooklyn, Crossroads.
The infamous Crossroads.
Yeah, infamous.
You from New York City, you know, you heard a lot about Crossroads. And so let's kick it off. The question of the day that I wanted to ask you is, in your opinion, how do we keep youth from being incarcerated?
We have to promote better than the streets are promoting. I don't think we don't do that. I think that we everything shuts down at 5, 6 o'clock. Mm-hmm. They don't realize that young people are just getting their energy at 5, 6 o'clock. And I think that we lose them in the street because what's left is that dude in the street who's up at that time and he got full of energy. You know what I'm saying? Moms, big brother, pops, they either going to their second job or they laying down preparing to get that energy back for the next one. And you got a space in between where no one's doing nothing with that young person, but there's that dude or that chick on the block, she's promoting that, and he's jumping to it.
Right. Now, in my case, like, I always try to figure out, like, it's been decades, you know what I mean, of the same image, like, you know what I mean, gangster, thugs, going to jail, back and forth. And, like, now as a teacher, I'm seeing young guys, you know, right now it's the rise of drill music and stuff like that. And that whole image is about to, like, you know, survive another generation. So I wanted to, like, you know what I mean, coming from everything you've seen, like, why do you think that image is still something that people, you know, young people are striving to be like, and, you know, we still haunted by this, like, gangster image?
Well, I'm going to keep it real with you. I think as there's so many adults scared of young people, and they scared to give that knowledge and scared to give that correction, right? So if you're not correcting from young, right, and as they get older, they're not getting smaller, they're getting bigger. So if you can't correct them or you refuse to correct them and say that's somebody else's problem, they're only going to get bigger and their problem is only going to persist. I believe there's a middle ground somewhere down the line where America did a dissatisfaction and arrested this middle group of black men who at that time kind of showed me what it was on the street to say, you know what, I like you. I want you to go to school. I don't want to see you on the corner. Those pimps, those hustlers, those number runners, those drug dealers, even though that's something that you thought in your mind, like, yo, I want to be that way, they always told you, look, you can be better than me. And they saw that. They're like, you going to school every day, you sound smart, I don't want to see you on the corner here. You know, my first break was with a woman named Mama Millie, God rest her soul, she passed away. She used to run a laundromat right next to the laundromat. She had the number hole. And she told me, she said, look, I want you to clean the laundromat, but I don't want you to touch that number hole. And she explained to me, I'm doing this because I want to keep you off the street. Now, that little money that she gave me, that little opportunity to open up a laundromat, close a laundromat, wash, meant a whole lot. But it showed that she was willing to have that conversation with me. She actually did my brother first, then she did me second.
Wow. Okay. All right, let's get into it. Again, reminding people what's your name and where you from.
Well, my name is Jamel, man. Jamel Netterman, a.k.a. Mel. I'm straight out of Fort Greene, Clinton Hill.
Okay, Fort Greene. All right. Let me drop the ball for Fort Greene. You know what I mean? So growing up in Brooklyn, especially, you know what I mean, 80s, 70s, 90s, like Brooklyn is, my father from Brooklyn, so, you know what I mean, my father from East New York, so I already know how it go. How was you able to, one, beat the circumstances, you know what I mean? It's the show's name, How to Beat the Streets. So how was you able to, like, seeing everything that you seen growing up, overcome all of those things? And then we're going to get to a little bit of, you know, some of your personal stuff.
So it took some young men in the community, dude named Mike Shepard. They used to call him Doc Scorp. Brother Barry B and his moms. Them dudes had so much going on as young entrepreneurs that they kind of pulled us in, you know what I'm saying? So they saw dudes on the street like, yo, come here. And they kind of introduced us to something different. So at that time, that's when guys was building studios and doing all those different things, you know, getting little hip hop groups together. And he brought us in and was like, listen, man, I need y'all to focus on this and not that. And that kept us off the street corners. Okay.
All right. And was it a time in your life where, you know, you was up against the streets and you might have lost?
Yeah. I won't say I lost. I joined it, you know what I mean?
You joined in?
Yeah, joined in. It's like they say association brings assimilation or assimilation brings association. You know, you ain't had no, at some point in a hangout turned into a robbery, you know what I'm saying? A robbery turned out to people getting hurt, you know what I mean? It just came from all over the place. And at one point, me being at the wrong place at the wrong time, them silver cuffs came on me, you know? And I found myself sitting in the jail cell, and my mom's telling me, listen, man, you put yourself in here, you got to figure it out.
What age was that?
14.
Wow. And that's, you know, I as you can imagine, I mean, a lot of young brothers get their first, you know, pair of silver bracelets around that time, you know. So how much time, you know, as a juvenile did you spend in that circumstance?
Well, 2 years. And I laugh at people. I even tell my son, my little son, they always said, my son, both sons asked, Daddy, teach me how to drive, right? And I told him I didn't learn how to, no one taught me how to drive, right? My man, Baby Brooklyn, brought me a stolen car that he stole from Cody Island. It was like, yo, here, man, go practice. And that's how I learned how to drive. So I make laugh of it today, but I told them they're going to have to go to driving school. So I'm not the one to teach them.
Man, that's funny. Especially, you know, being from Brooklyn, seeing everything you've seen, and even facing that type of circumstance, like being locked up at a young age. You know, what was the moment where you knew, like, yo, this ain't for me? Tell us a little bit about that. Like,
I guess the moment when you realize, like, when you sitting at night and you crying, it's like, you know, why am I here? You know what I mean? And then you kind of like putting on a front during the day, right? So you walking around with a bunch of dudes who are there for murder, who at that time, you know, New York State was giving out 9-to-life sentences like they was giving out free cheese, you know? So you got 14, 15, 16-year-old kids in there with 9-to-life sentences. So they're not trying to come home probably for like the next 20 years. And I just said it just couldn't be me. So you start reading things, you start looking at magazines, and I'm like, I want to go here, I want to go here, I want to achieve this. And I'm like, if I continue doing this, hanging out with these people, because I was never that real dude to go rob somebody. That was not me, but I sort of got the adrenaline rush when my mans and them did it, you know, running downtown Brooklyn, running up on dudes on Duffield, you know, so eventually somewhere down the line, I was going to get caught up.
Right. Man, and that just reminds me of, you know, a lot of the young guys I see now, you know what I mean, unfortunately, you know, getting hit with different sentences and, you know, leaving their families, and then years later, like right now, I got a lot of friends who's just now coming home and starting all over, and it's not a pretty sight, you know what I mean? And that's why I definitely want to have you up here to talk a little bit more about, you know, both sides of it. Like, you seen it, you know, from the inside, and then now you see it, from the outside looking in. If you could share one thing, about what you seen at that stage before we, fast forward, what would it be? Something that you was like, nah, I can't. This too much in here, man.
I think it's so funny because it's Pride Month, but I think the thing that hits me hard, I've never seen dudes turn out other dudes. Like, you just thought that was like, when they talked about it was foolishness.
Right.
But I'm watching young dudes like walking around shirt tied, red stuff on their lips, you know what I'm saying? And dudes that you be like, he's a killer. And he got shorty like a dude. I was like, nah, we can't operate like this.
And it's like sometimes you got to take the BandAid off. And the reason why, I'm happy that you mentioned that is because I feel like a lot of times, like, it's too many young brothers that don't really understand, what they getting themselves into. You know what I mean? So it's like people probably like, yo, they talking crazy, but this is the reality of, what's happening out here. Like, a lot of young brothers they never been there, and they don't have people who's sharing these type of stories to let them know what you might, have to, go up against. So I'm happy you was able to share that, but moving forward, like, tell us a little bit about how far you took education.
Well, I was always a smart dude, you know what I mean? I think at some point in life, for some reason, black and brown kids got a front like they're intelligent, you know what I'm saying? Because their mans in them are not really going home and studying, you know what I'm saying?
Dumb it down.
Yeah. But I always like to read and sit there. I was always a documentary type dude, you know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna lie to you, math caused me a little problems. But, but I just felt like in order for me to get my stuff together, I got to improve on what I need to do, right? And that includes not only being able to figure out math problems, but to figure out where it came from. How did I end up getting there, right? Because sometimes you get the numbers and don't realize which way it came by.
Process.
So that's what I had to realize, like, well, what is my life going to be? I think if we go back to what you just discussed, to me the issue with the young brothers and sisters today is that someone is giving them a false presentation of what their life's supposed to look like, and no one is giving them what it can look like. And I think that until you find more people that's going to push what their life can look like, instead of this is what it is, we're always going to see this cycle that we're going through right now.
And that's definitely, what we're trying to do here. You know what I mean? One, me being an educator, but two, like doing music, podcasts, the whole purpose is just to show, kids that coming from the same areas I come from, whether it's Harlem, Bronx, Brooklyn, you know what I mean? It's the potential is endless, you know what I mean, to what we could do. So I went to Buffalo State for college, and then I went to Relay for graduate school. What about you? I heard you went to the Boston College.
That's right, yeah.
Ooh, Boston College from Brooklyn? Cool, you got to tell us a little about that, man.
It's so funny, right? It's like I didn't apply to too many schools because I was BSing around, you know what I'm saying? It's your last year, you're a young black dude in school, you're popular, you know what I'm saying? You try to knock everything down moving. You like, then at the same time, you're still nervous because it's like, where's my life going to be after these next 3 months come in right before June, right? So I tell a story all the time. Someone on the line just said, I'm going to join the Navy. So I was like, yo, I need a kickback, because I'm not hearing from no schools because I really didn't put no energy into it. Right, so BC is something I did like on a humble, like, let me just knock this out real quick.
BC D1, right?
Yeah, so I said, let me knock this out. So I'm down at Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn, right? I done took the test. I'm getting ready to be sworn in, right?
To the Navy.
It's about to be sworn into the Navy. So they break a little bit. My mom's paged me, right? So, for those that know what that page is, you ain't had no cell phone. I had to call that number back. So she hit me with the number code. I called mom's back. She said, you got a letter here from BC. I said, word?
Oh.
I said, open it. Read it to me. She said, you've been accepted, right? Like a black mother, she going through it. Well, ain't no zero where it says you owe, there's a whole lot of money they said you got to pay. I said, does it say accepted? She said, yeah. So now I'm trying to figure out how to get out of Fort Hamilton. So make a long story short, right before we get sworn in, I dip out the back door, man. I left my recruiter And then my grandfather, rest his soul, took me up to the Bean, and that was it.
What was your major?
My major was criminal justice correctional management.
Salute. What made you choose that?
It's another story, right? So
that's what we here for. You gotta talk.
So God rest her soul. She's not dead, but got older. They had a lady named Judah Scarzy, Dr. Judah Scarzy. So when we came up there, I'm a cocky black kid from New York City. Now I'm in a room with another bunch of young men and women. A lot of them obviously not men and women of color. So she divides and asks people, what do your parents do for a living? So people say, oh, my mom's a lawyer, pop's a lawyer, my mom's a doctor, blah, blah, blah. So she started dividing the classes up into groups. So then she said all those whose parents had like kind of blue collar jobs, we was like, which wasn't very few of us, we in the cut. And she says to us, she says, let me tell you something, you guys are gonna work triple times what they're gonna have to work in order to get a career when you leave, because right there they already have a cushion. Mm-hmm. They have someone that's already going, when they graduate, going to pull them in. You guys are going to work triple hard to get that. So I was like, word? And she said, criminal justice, I remember this is 93, said criminal justice is going to be the fastest career for African Americans and brown to be middle class. And I got in the criminal, and every time she ain't never lie.
Yo, you know what's so crazy? I'm staring at all right now because when I went to college, I was a criminal justice major. Okay. But my professor, he was telling me like, what do you want? Like, what do you want out of this whole college experience? And I was like, honestly, I just want a job right after college. In my era, everybody's saying like, you go to college, everybody go to college, then come home, you gotta go find a job. You ain't got no job. So I was like, yo, coming from Harlem, I'm like, I have to show them like, if I go to college, I got to come back with something. Because everybody they're not excited. By the time I went, it wasn't like, oh, you in college. It was like, oh, everybody go to college and they don't be doing nothing with that. So my whole thing, when I told him, like, I need to do something like soon as I get out of here. And he hit me with the criminal justice. It's the fastest way for you to get right. Like, soon as you finish, you take a couple tests. And that's what it was. So my first job offer was state trooper.
See?
I got a 99, on a test because, through the classes, they helped us study how to take the test and stuff like that. So my first job offer as soon as I graduated was to be a New York State trooper. But I had went to Teach for America. They was like tabling at the college, and I was like, Teach for America? They was just telling me how it was a black dude saying like, it's not a lot of black men that be teaching, And then my advisor was telling me the same thing, like, yo. And she was a white lady, and she was like, a guy like you could inspire a lot of students. Mm-hmm. So just go on an interview and see what happens. And then you could teach anywhere you want. So I was trying to go to Miami. I was trying to go to Miami and teach. So I put Miami number 1, put New York City like number 5. I ended up getting accepted, but they sent me to New York. And they was like, we're going to pay for you to get a master's degree for free if you teach for 2 years.
Good stuff.
So I was like, man, I looked at the state trooper. I was scared because I didn't want to get into law enforcement because I was like, man, I ain't know how. I'm, New York City, Harlem guy. I'm like, I don't think I could put the hat on and really like do it like that on the highway. So I was like, I chose teaching, and it took me far. I got my master's, and I'm still doing great things with teaching and music and stuff like that. So,
good stuff.
But that's just interesting to know, like they still, passing that message all the way through, like criminal justice.
And I used to laugh at my brothers. And my brother, when I came back to New York and I was getting my master's, and I'm doing DOC, and my brother, he's teaching, and he's about to become a vice principal, right? I'm watching him stressed out, right? So he home, he's stressed out because they sent him up to Albany like to get extra credits and all that. And he's still grading papers, right? I come home, I bust out a double. My check is looking ridiculous, you know what I'm saying? So I'm a party. I'm like, so me and he used to have a joke. I'd be like, well, you educate, I'm incarcerated, and we meet in the middle. And it's a shame that, and I tell people all the time, it's a shame that we don't recognize teachers and educators for what they do for our young people. But we're quick to pay, right? Think about it, right? We're quick to pay someone to incarcerate and keep our young black and brown folks incarcerated, all type of money, right?
Right.
You never have to sit down and hear a union, a law enforcement union, kind of grief about what's coming, right? They just gave NYPD 6% raise.
Ooh.
Right? So you talking about in 5 years, a regular officer will make $105,000. So what are you saying to someone when they come out, right? You get all of this degrees and stuff like that, and you say, okay, you want to put me in teaching, you want to make me 60, 70, but somebody's telling me in 5 years, not only I'm making $105,000, look at the pension that comes
right
after that. So it makes it hard. What I did was took what I do and turned it into a teaching job at the same time, right? So I'm encourage you to get what you need to do, but I'm also encourage you to work on them bad habits that you have, right? Because I tell the young people all the time, God sent you here for me. Like, I'm not going to send you out unless the judge, obviously, when he sentenced you, but God sent you here for me to put my hands on you, to have a conversation with you, and let's see how we can sit down and we get this thing right for you. Because when you come out, I'm going to be here for you. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I work.
So, like, your first role, your first dive into the career life was correctional officer.
Yes.
What was that like? Like the first year?
At that time, you're talking 98. So you got these dudes just wilding.
You was in Rikers Island?
Yeah, adolescent.
Ooh, first year, adolescent. All right, you got let's stories from the South.
So it's like you got so many gangs around in New York City at that time. So you got to remember you had a major gang starting. I don't want to name names, to make anybody feel it was a great thing. But you had all these different things start. So now you got this big gang, and it's like, damn, they came here, and all of a sudden the violence levels continuously to rise. Where it becomes really segregated. And I tell people, it's no different from a high school cafeteria, where you have the Hispanic section, right? But the Hispanic section is broke up into the Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, right? And Mexicans. Then you have the Asian section, that's broken down. Then you got the black section, that's broken down to Caribbeans, Africans, and African Americans. It's always like that. We got to figure out a way to change that up. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to figure out, how do you have conversations with each other across that? So what I saw was a lot of intimidation, a lot of slashes, and it was like, it was okay. It wasn't like, oh, damn, that's somebody's child. It was like, all right, that's another day, write the report, keep it moving.
Whoa, man, that's heavyweight stuff. Especially like, I'm trying to paint the picture through the whole story from like your youthful days to then Boston College and then criminal justice and then first year back. You know what I mean, in Rikers Island, and you seeing all of this stuff. Like, so while you was working, have you ever, thought about, damn, like what's happening to the culture? Like just seeing all these young guys and the cutting, the fighting, you know what I mean? Like, did that ever, play a part into like how you was looking at our culture as a whole, or was you just like doing it day to day and like?
No, I was trying to find out what was the missing piece, right? So my thing was, I was putting all. Then the warden sat down there and gave me a challenge. Right? I asked him, like, what you want to do? I was like, I want to run juvenile justice, because I know what it was to be a young person detained.
Right.
So I'm saying, I want to be able to make those decisions. So a lot of them that's detained, don't let this become a career situation.
Get them while they're younger.
So she picked up the phone, and then next thing you know, I'm at Juvenile Justice. I'm in Spofford. So I'm back in Spofford. I'm walking around like, ooh, I remember this. You know what I mean? So
that's funny.
And she gave me an opportunity. She was like, listen, man, I want you to create the first directly operated program for young people, what they call pre and post detention. So pre-detention was young people that police arrested, but they had discretion and said, we won't put them through the system. And this is for all 5 boroughs. And then there was young people that were just getting out of Spofford. So their cases were either dismissed or they got probation, so they didn't have to go upstate, right? But they might have been in Spofford maybe 2 or 3 years, or up to 2 or 3 years. So when they came home, I worked with them, right? So I created all these programs with them. So one of the first things I created was STEPS, which is Summer Teen Education and Prevention Services. So it came with case managers, it came with recreational specialists, it came with a group of people to deal with young people in various areas that came back. So we kind of worked with them on police sensitivity, we worked them on decision making, conflict resolution.
That's dope.
All the skills, we wanted to teach them the skills that they need, right? Because sometimes, unfortunately, people think that it's easy for anybody to get into a conflict and solve it. That's something that it's teachable. You got to teach them how to walk away from that, how to have conversations. Those things are not easy. A lot of people have this misnomer that young people just know how to walk away from it. Right. And that's not what it is.
Or just easily, just make that right turn and move on.
Exactly.
But that is something I wanted to ask you is like, we see a lot of repeat offenders out here. Like, after, whatever they go through in the juvenile detention phase, and then they end up in Rikers Island, and then they end up upstate. Like, is there a way to stop the cycle? Like, what can we do? You know what I mean? Even as, like, I'm an educator, so I want to, have that spin on it. What can we do as educators to try to, like, keep these guys from going back?
You gotta listen more, right? Your plan is not necessarily my plan. And I think that we got to get to that point where we're listening to them to find out what's going on. Like we discussed earlier, working with young people can't be a 9-to-5 job. You know what I'm saying? It has to be somewhere 24 hours a day that you sit there and you putting those emphasis and those resources in, right? So Johnny that can't walk, right? You can't build a community center on Intervale, and Johnny can't walk across. Right. You know what I mean? Like, he ain't gonna never make it there.
Beef, yep.
So we got to create something where someone can. We have all these little places that people can come to and say, you know what, tonight I don't want to do that. I want to talk to somebody. You know what I mean? You got to remember, these are young people who are the crack babies of the crack babies of the crack babies, right? So they miss that tutelage and that learning, and sometimes that's all they want. Detention and prison provide structure. That's something that you don't have to worry about. You don't have to worry about when your next meal is coming from because you already know what time it is. Mm-hmm. You know when rec time is. You know what shower time is, right? All those things that people think that young people know automatically is not. They didn't know automatically. Someone has to teach them because somewhere down there, they've come from a home where no one taught them that, right? I know when I was growing up, you had a lot of, when I came back from college, you had a lot of young people being raised by grandparents, right? Grandma is 70 years old, as much as she can do, she can't handle a 13, 14-year-old.
Right. And
the things that she did when she was 13 or 14 years old was a little bit different.
It don't work the same.
Yeah, there was no social media, right? There was nobody on the joint telling you about, yo, if you got beef with a homie, spin the block, right? Not only am I telling you to spin the block, I got another dude that I admire. He's cutting that kid a check, and he's telling me, oh, my God, I can talk about shooting and killing people, and it's all right, but you just gave me $1 million and confirmed that what I'm doing is okay.
Wow. Now that takes me to, we in the Boogie Down Bronx, man, 50 years of hip hop, you know what I mean? So I want to ask you, how impactful is the music on, what's happening right now with the young kids? And I know you know about the drill music right now, we in that era. Do you think, all the violence, the gun violence, the incarceration is tied to the music?
I believe it's part of it, right? Everything is tied into something, right? Drill music gives you the visuals, right? The audibles, excuse me. And the video games give you the visuals, right? So you sitting all day playing Manhunt and all these different things, and you're basically tuning yourself out, right? So when you go out there with that pistol and you clap somebody, ain't no restart button. You know what I'm saying?
Like,
it's over. You know what I'm saying? But the drill music in your mind is given a false pretense of what are the rules and regulations inside a community, right? I tell people all the time, you never heard, no one can ever point anything out to me, a video or anything, where you hear Jay-Z talking to kids about what they shouldn't do. Mm-hmm. He's never going to tell them. He's not, because he figures to himself, hey, I may be a hypocrite because this got me this far. Now, he'll tell you, I will support everything that's necessary so kids that don't go that route, but I won't have that conversation, right? Because I tell people all the time, it's like, for example, you're a teacher, right? Badging yourself a health teacher. Mm-hmm. Every day at 12 o'clock, you go outside and smoke a cigarette. You come back in, and today's lesson is about tobacco. So how you going to tell me not to smoke? And I clearly smell cigarette smoke on you.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? So at that time, it's like it's a separation. What I see nowadays over the last 2 years is a total disregard for human life when it comes to young people. And I've never seen a bunch of young people who mentally and physically are preparing themselves to spend long periods of time in prison. when I talk to them, I feel like they have a on and off button.
Right.
You know, like, okay, I'm doing this for now, but this is some way down the line, I'm going to cut it off. But they don't realize the more charges you put on yourself, you no longer control that off button. Somebody else controls it for you. And the sad part, and I would challenge brothers that's coming home, because you have some good brothers who made poor decisions who are coming home, right? But a lot of them dudes refusing to talk to these kids, man. They telling you straight up, if I talk to this kid, I'm going back. Because these young people have no respect for those that came behind that's able to say, okay, follow these footsteps so you don't get in trouble.
Right. And that takes me to like Father's Day is coming up, right? So I'm thinking about right now I got a son, my son is 6 months. And what can we do as black fathers, to stop this mass incarceration, the yearn to be a drill, gangster and all that? Like, how important is the black father, and what can we do as black fathers? I'm thinking for myself too. Like, I'm getting nervous. I'm like, damn, I got a little boy to raise. How am I gonna stop him from wanting to be a gangster? How am I gonna stop him from wanting to think it's cool to be, not educated and all that? Like, what can we do, as fathers?
The best thing I can tell you is don't think that you're just a man with a 6 or 7 month old, right? Thinking you're a man that you have a whole bunch of kids in the community. Because what happens is we don't want to place ourselves and be selfish and say we only going to raise ours.
Right.
You got to get the opportunity to say, you know what, someone's missing from that young man's life. Let me give him something. He's missing something. I'm going to give you a perfect example. I remember I was and pulled up from the Chinese restaurant, get my normal 4 chicken wings and fried rice. And I see these kids outside, and I'm watching them pull on their masks and stuff. Now, I'm from the street, so I'm like, yo, they about to get the delivery man, right? So I kind of hop out the car, and I go over, and my man, like, what you doing? I'm like, nah. I say, yo, let me tell you something, fellas. No disrespect. I know what you about to do. The question is it worth being incarcerated right now? That's all I want to know. Is it worth being incarcerated? The little bit of money, little change for you, I see you about to run up in here and take from homie. Is it really worth it?
We need that.
And so my man thought or expected them to be ignorant about it. You know what I'm saying? And what they did was like, all right, no problem. And they walked away.
Wow.
Now, I'm not saying they didn't go back and do something, but I knew at that present point in time, I stopped something from happening. And I think they understood. One, I was courteous. I was respectful. And I told my kid. You know what I'm saying? I think that we as men, whether we fathers or not, we as men are fathers of this universe here.
There we go.
Of all these kids. So we got to impart that knowledge on them whenever we can. So I know when you're in your classroom, you're doing that.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're giving them something that somebody else has failed to do.
It's the uplift.
Yeah, as long as you continue that, I think we won't have a problem.
Woo. Oh man, look, ladies and gentlemen, this guy dropped so much gems, man. I'm gonna wrap up with these last 2 things. One, can you give us a quick hack, for all the people that want to get into corrections, and because I heard it's a big bag in that field, man.
It's a nice bag.
Can you just share with the audience, like, if I want to be a correctional officer, what do I need to do?
Well, basically just, I'm not advertising it, but let me tell you something. If you want to go from Western beef to stew lineage, go take that test, pass the physical, and make it happen.
What test? How do we get that test?
You can go on DCAS, go on the website. You can go to DOC. Even for juvenile justice now, part of ACS is called Division of Youth and Family Justice now. You can go be a youth development specialist. Those who really need you, those young people really, really need you before you start working with them at 18 above. Raise the age kicked in, which says that culpability for young people raised to 18 instead of 16. Go work in a detention facility and help out with these young people.
Dope. There you have it, man. Yo, thanks again, my good brother.
You know that.
About the show. Let everybody know where they could, if they want to stay in tune with you.
You always holler at me at the Xi-Phi chapter, Omega Xi-Phi Fraternity. I am the chairman of the Omega Xi-Phi Black College Tour.
Dope.
We take young people from New York City. We find funding for them, and we take them for a week We cover hotel, we cover bus, we cover food, we take them away. In fact, we had 15 students from Pharos that was on this year.
That's dope.
And if you want your young person a part of that, junior, senior, please check us out, zi-fi.com. It come through, we belong to the greatest fraternity in the world. Don't ever let anybody tell you any less. Rude to the good cues, you know what I mean? But come out, you know what I mean?
And there you have it, man. Another episode, How to Beat the Streets podcast.
This one goes out to all little bros out there. Y'all be safe, man. Might not be my blood, but you my little bro. Care about you, so I really gotta let you know. The streets foul, man, gotta reap what you sow. It's grown men out here grown, I never grow, little bro.